everyone, and welcome to the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida podcast, the Just Economy podcast. Welcome back for another podcast. We got a great guest this morning. We'll be getting to him shortly, but before we get to him, we want to make a few announcements. First of all, as you well know, this is the Just Economy podcast, building a just economy for Florida, and we will work to provide different viewpoints, different ideas, and different suggestions to make our economy better, to make our people better, and to make our communities better. So this morning, we have a great guest. And by the way, my name is Cornell Cruz Jr. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida and your host for the Just Economy podcast. We have a great guest he's actually head of policy at the NCRC. His name is Dedrick Asante-Muhammad. Very smart gentleman. I depend on him a lot for the work that has to be done in the community and how we can better frame it. And we're going to have a very deep discussion this morning about several items, and most importantly, the racial wealth gap. So, Dedrick, I want to welcome you. Thank you for coming on.
Just advance this a little bit, is we need radical policy change because we're radically on the wrong path now, right? And that's the reason to me to highlight the depth of the problem, because the depth of the problem helps us understand the requirements of the solution and how large the solution must be. So we really need radical policy shifts if we're going to really address this issue.
So, and ladies and gentlemen, please, if you want to read this report for yourself, please go to ncrc.org. You can actually pull up Dedrick's report. This is, as far as I'm concerned, required reading. And one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with Dedrick, is because this is not talked about enough. Because I actually believe that everybody thinks, not everybody, but a lot of people think, oh, no worries, we're there. We just don't need to talk about it right now. We'll get there. But 780 friggin' years is not getting there. That's not even close to getting there. That's not even trying, as far as I'm concerned. You're not even. That's
right.
We're not putting forth any effort. If I'm watching the basketball team, if I'm going to the Heat game and my Heat are down 25 points, and they're still down 25 points at the middle of the fourth quarter, and they've been down 25 points the whole game, they're not putting forth any effort. They're not changing anything.
No, like what problem could a national politician say, hey, I have a path that'll address that problem in 780 years? What? Like, where is that acceptable? What problem is that acceptable that you would take that from any politician?
That sounds like a Richard Pryor joke. You know what I mean? Who could actually say that? Well, I tell you what, black people, you just be patient and I have a plan that in 780 years, everything will be good to go. No. I have no patience, Dedrick. My patience is gone. All the patience that I had is gone. So every time I had this conversation and somebody tells me, "Oh, just be patient, Cornell, it's going to happen." Really? It ain't happening. It ain't happening in over 400 years. And here's Dedrick telling me it's going to take me another 780 years.
Yeah, almost 800. Yeah, that's right. And again, this goes back to the 60% black homeownership report we did. 20 years is a long time. Yeah. And so I laid out, all right, 20 years, we need to double new black homeowners and maintain that for 20 years just to get blacks to 60%. That's still not equal to the 70%. So I'll be that patient, but it's got to be within 20 years that we got to make, and that's not even equality. Yeah. That's just substantive improvement, right? And we have to double new black homeowners, right? That's a radical shift just to get to that. So again, we need that type of radical shift in most of our policies if we're going to really address this issue.
So I read something recently. As a matter of fact, we had a community meeting with one of the big banks, and I read something recently, and it was the Financial Times. I think it was the Financial Times to put it out, that from the 1980s to now, simply because of racism, this country has lost, simply because of racism, $65 trillion. $65 trillion. I don't know who would want to give up $65 trillion. If you came to me and said, Cornell, if you said to me, Cornell, just make everything equal and here's $65 trillion, I'm with it. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But to lose that kind of money, and what do you think? Why do you think that we are where we are? Is it just lack of political will, or is just that we're so ingrained this country is so ingrained with it that, okay, this certain portion, black and brown people need to be below white people. And I'm not saying all white people think that, but enough to matter. So if you if you say that all black and brown people don't need to be on the same level as us, and how we do that is through the economy, is through housing, through wealth building, through all those things, all those policies that we could do. We're just not going to do that. And I hate to be so cynical, I really do, but there's got to be a reason why we're not there.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, look, and I am going to have to wrap up because I have to move on to my next thing. But I mean, again, we have to have a clear understanding of the history of this country. I mean, the history of this country was based on this idea of wealth, asset accumulation at the expense of people of color. And that people, and again, I don't think it's as a base, rude statement that people are like, we got to keep blacks down. I just think it's more of an unconscious thing that I have to maintain my, well-being, and my well-being subconsciously means I'm doing better than others. Mm-hmm. And if we start talking about investing in others, that means it's a deficit for me, instead of recognizing that those others is the majority of the country soon come, already the majority of the children. And so if you're not investing in them, you're not investing in the country. And at best, you can try to create a little island of prosperity in the midst of, I think what Dr. King said, like an ocean of despair and insecurity, And so there has to be either a consciousness, radical consciousness change, or a population change. And we are getting the population change, but even with the population change, we also have to, because blacks oftentimes aren't advocating for the radical enough shift in policy, right? Or Latinos or, other groups. So there has to be a consciousness change, period. And the question is, it could happen faster if it's whites and people of color. If it's going to be people of color, it'll take a little bit longer, but it still has to have a radical consciousness change among people of color. We realize we do have to invest. You can't just let the market create broad prosperity.
We want to thank you, Dedrick, for being a part of this conversation today. This was an important conversation. I'm going to be pushing to get you on CNN and ESPN and Fox News and MSNBC. Our guest today, Dedrick Asante-Muhammad. He's the social director at National Community Reinvestment Coalition. We gladly thank him. Took his time for us. He's up in Washington, D.C. to be in our podcast today, the Just Economy Podcast. We want to thank all of you for listening and being a part of the Just Economy Podcast. Look forward to our next podcast. Look forward to all the announcements that are going to be happening over the next few months. Some important things are happening in the nonprofit world, especially around the Community Reinvestment Act. Dedrick, thank you again. I can't thank you enough. This was a great conversation. Please read Dedrick's paper at ncrc.org. Go there and look it up so you can actually read it and download the paper and keep that for future reference as we work out these 780 years. Thank you, Dedrick, and we greatly appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work you and your community does. Thank you.
Thank you, Dedrick. And that's it. See you next time on the Just Economy Podcast, sponsored by the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida. Thank you.